What's up, guys? So this is going to be the video for St. Augustine. If you guys have been watching the last videos, you know that we've already completed puzzles 2 through 8, which were the first 7 that we did, and then the last 3 were 12, 11, and 10. So the only ones we have left are numbers 1 and 9. This is going to be our 9 right here, so that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind. Something about this puzzle right here, there is no ability for us to have boots on the ground. If you go over with your little man, you won't be able to put yourself anywhere inside the park except for a few points to get a 3D view. This really hinders what we're able to do in terms of finding information. I told you before when we started with Chicago, you got to give those guys a lot of credit because they did all of this stuff without Google Maps. They had feet on the ground and they were looking around, which is something that with the technology we have, we've been lucky enough that we've been able to use Google Maps to see everything in 3D and be able to read and do all that stuff that we need to do. Here, we're going to have to rely on some old-fashioned digging because we won't be able to put boots anywhere on the ground here. So it's going to be a lot more difficult. Just a couple of things about this city right here. We've talked about certain things before in certain cities. In St. Augustine, they have a pirate and treasure museum. So here's another instance of piracy. Although this doesn't really play a part here, you know, pirates were a big thing on the southern coast of the United States. Also, since we're dealing with the Ponce de Leon Fountain of Youth Park, I just wanted to point out that just south of the Fountain of Youth Park, there's actually a place called Flagler College. But before it was known as Flagler College, it was known as the Ponce de Leon Hotel. And if you pull up Google Maps or Wikipedia, you can do a little digging about this area, and you can see that it was built by a millionaire developer and Standard Oil co-founder Henry M. Flagler. So we have another reference to an oil baron and also to the Ponce de Leon, who the Fountain of Youth is named after. Also, it would be good for us to know a little bit about who Ponce de Leon was. His first name was Juan, and he was a Spanish explorer and conquistador. He led the first expedition to Puerto Rico, and the capital, St. Juan, is actually named after Juan Ponce de Leon, so San Juan. And he first came to the Americas as a gentleman volunteer with Christopher Columbus's second expedition. We all know that in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but Ponce de Leon came in 1493 on the second voyage with Christopher Columbus. So we have a little bit of history and a little bit of connecting the dots again. This won't be the last time, but it's good to know these things. So in this video specifically, there's going to be a big difference on how we do this puzzle as opposed to the other ones. There's a reason I saved this puzzle and the Roanoke puzzle for last, mainly because of the visibility of the islands or the areas using Google Maps. We're not going to be able to do the things we were on the other puzzles. So what we're going to have to rely on is our knowledge of how the puzzles are constructed, which is they're embedded with a number. I'm going to work mainly on the picture because that's going to be the easiest thing for us to do. I'm not going to be putting all the points on the map. If you guys are really interested in finding this treasure, you guys are going to have to do a little homework on your own and possibly go there. One of the things about the Fountain of Youth Park is this park is not free to go into. This is the only park where you're going to have to pay an admission. It's $22.95. So if you guys want to go, you're going to have to pay to get in, which none of the other places will require you to do. And then you're going to have to find the clues, which I'm going to show to you, put them on a map, and make your number. I could show you certain other things like where exactly I believe it's buried, but I think that would really take away from this exercise of using what you've known. I'm going to lay it out for you, and in this puzzle, and only this puzzle, you guys are going to have to do the work yourself if you want to try and dig it up. Josh Gates did go to this park. He had permission from the current owner of the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park, so getting permission to dig here will require a little bit more than dealing with the city. You actually have to deal with the owner of this park. So if you want to do that, I'm sure you guys can find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. So the first verse of the poem is going to be the first chapter written in water. If you do a little research, you could see that right at the gate, the Fountain of Youth gate, they're going to have a bunch of signs right in front. But if you zoom in, it's going to say first chapter of our nation's colonial history. So first chapter, but this sign isn't the original sign that was there during the 1980s. I'm going to be using PB Works here, so if you guys haven't checked out that site yet, please do. They got a lot of great information. But the sign that we're actually looking for is going to be right here. And it says right here, the first chapter, which is the first line, the first chapter. So this is going to be where we want to start. So we can bookmark the Fountain of Youth gate. Next, it says written in water. Um, like I said, there's not a lot of ability for us to look closely at some of these locations because we can't put boots on the ground, and some of these listings on the site aren't exactly accurate. Like, for example, right here it says this is where the Fountain of Youth ticket office is right here. That's not true. The Fountain of Youth ticket office is actually right in front. And, we come over here, tickets and entrance. So you can see that it's not accurate. Unfortunately, a lot of these places that we need to see are not labeled. So we're going to have to just go off of pictures, and you guys are going to have to find where the stuff is located and use that information. But what we are looking for is going to be right here. It says the Fountain of Youth this spring was discovered in 1513 and was recorded a landmark in the Spanish grant. And if you look right here, you can kind of see the outline of what looks to be maybe a trapezoid or whatever you want to call it. But if we look on the picture, what I'll do first is I'll zoom in down here. We know that the water in this picture is going to be right over here. And if you look closely at right here, well, first I'll say, in the Houston puzzle I told you when it said fortress, north, cold as glass, I told you think of water because it's glassy when it's calm. And if you're in the mountains on a glassy lake, you could see a mountain in reflection. Well, here we actually have glassy water. Here's a mountain, and it has a glassy reflection, so it gives a perfect opposite view. But this right here is the Fountain of Youth arch right here. So we'll just say it right there. And this right under it looks very much like the mountain, except it's just reversed upside down. So here's the arch, and this right here, the upside down mountain, is actually this Fountain of Youth right there. So we can start knowing that we are right here, and we'll move on. The next clue says, near men with windrows. Well, there's lots of men, quote unquote, in this park, mostly conquistadors right here. And you can see here's what a conquistador would have looked like. They have an upside down fleur-de-lis right here, and they have their patented helmets and everything. If we were to look at the top, we could see something very similar, same style pants and everything. So we know that when we're going to be starting down here, we're going to be going up towards this guy right here. And the windrows is going to be right here. Inside one of the buildings, you're going to be able to find this on the wall. This is a traverse board, but also known as a windrose compass. This is something that they would have used back in the 1500s to help them navigate. And if we looked at the picture, we could see this circular design right here, very reminiscent of this circle right here. So that would be our next point right there. We'd be going up. There's a conquistador, and right there. So unfortunately, I don't know exactly which building the Windrose Compass is in. I know we have a planetarium and we have a gift shop, and then we have other buildings. So what you guys are going to have to do is you're going to find out which one of these buildings has the Windrose Compass and use that as your point. Now the next clue is behind bending branches and a green picket fence. Well, if we were to go boots on the ground, which we can't do, so I'm just going to pull up some pictures for you to see. Here we have an example just right outside the park of two sides of trees, and it kind of makes an over arch for you to drive down the road. But we need to be inside the park, so This picture inside might be a little better, where you have an arch right here, and here's the Ponce de Leon statue. But we're inside the park, and we have these bending branches above us. And if we were to look at our picture, we could see right about here, it kind of looks like some branches or something over, and we're looking at an arch, so we would probably say that this would be the next point. Next, it talks about a green picket fence. Well, if we're outside the park, we could actually zoom in a little bit. So if we're in the parking lot right here, we can see that there's a fence. This fence right here isn't what we need. That one is newer. But if we zoomed in out here, this is what the original fencing looked like. It had kind of an obelisk type shape. And if we just look further down in our picture, we could see a fence post right here. It kind of has a bluish look, but this is very similar to these fences right here. So we know that these fences will be our next point right here. Next, it says at the base of a tall tree. Again, if we zoom in, and we know that we're close, here's the picket fence. And if you look right here, you can kind of see what's an outline of a tree. That would most likely be our next point. Or if you wanted to look right here, here's a palm tree. So, we're looking for a tall tree. Here's a palm, and here's another tree perhaps. So we're looking at the base of a tall tree. Which tree? I'll let you guys figure that one out. But the next clue is you can still hear the honking. Now, this is kind of two different things, I'd say. If we look over at PB Works, using the pictures right here, we can actually see the fence right here, the green picket fence. But when it comes to honking, they say it could refer to ducks, geese, and peacocks. And if you ever look through the pictures, you're going to see plenty of pictures of peacocks there and lots of other birds. And if you were to look here, this side right here kind of looks like a peacock feather right here. Here you have what looks to be a bird. Here's the eye. Here's the beak right here. And this little thing kind of looks like another bird, more like a dodo bird, maybe, even that those don't exist. But we could see birds in these outlines. But something else it says is it could be a reference to the trams that are looping through the parking lot, bringing people through. And if we took a look for a picture like that, here we can see a picture of a tram entering in the Fountain of Youth Park. What this kind of reminds me of is if you guys have ever been to Disneyland or Disney World, you know that there's a tram that picks you up from the parking lot and drops you off in the front. This kind of reminds me of that right here. We have these trams and they're pretty much transporting people through. And if we were to look on the picture right here, you could see what kind of appears to be a possible tram. Maybe it's turning. This is probably the head of the tram. So I would be more likely to say that that would be the tram right there. So we can just connect from the point of the trees up to the tram. If you wanted to use birds though, obviously we have these birds right here. If they were honking, you could use those points. But right about here would remind me of trams. So that's the point that we're going to be using right here. So one thing I wanted to show you guys real quickly was a picture here on PB Works. And if you look closely at this picture right here, you can see that it has a bunch of animals put together. And that's a picture from some of Florida's very special animals produced for the Florida Audubon Society in 1978. So this could be something that JJP used for his interpretation of kind of putting things together. Because when we look at this picture and we zoom in a bit, we could see certain animals. This has the outline of either a fish or the peacock's wings. You could see what appears to be a bird beak right here. Here looks like another bird head and beak right there. And this right here is either a four-legged animal or some kind of bird or something. So, we got a lot of birds in this picture. It could have something to do with this picture right here, having everything drawn in together. But, that's kind of an interpretation of an amalgamation of a bunch of things put into one kind of mountain right there. The next clue is shell, limestone, silver, salt. And for this clue right here, we're going to be looking over at PB Works once again. Now, personally, I was unable to find this sign right here. But you can see that it says the many rocks and walls seen in the Fountain of Youth Discovery Park consist of broken shells cemented together by natural limestone when mixed with sand and calcite from the shells and seawater. This is called coquina, taken from the Spanish word that means shellfish or cockle. So we know that here's our shell and limestone. They helped basically make like a cement that they used. So if you guys were able to find this sign, I don't know if it's still in existence, but that would be something that we were looking for. I couldn't find that on the map. Now, salt and silver, there's also another sign that says, encased above is a one-sided replica of the silver salt cellar discovered buried near the cross in October 1904 by Dr. Luella de McConnell. The original is believed to have belonged to Ponce de Leon, who had licensed the export of a silver salt cellar from Spain to Puerto Rico in 1512. The egg-shaped casque, and the casque is spelled exactly the same as we're using for the treasures, contained a parchment on which was written the statement of a witness attesting to the planting of the cross in 1513. Such witnesses or notaries customarily accompanied explorers on their voyages and as personal representatives of the king. So if we think back to San Francisco, the prayer book cross, what was inscribed in there was actually a passage from the notary who was on the trip with Sir Francis Drake. So similarly, this is something that happened here with the silver salt cellar. Now, of course, the issue here is that we cannot zoom in on any signs and we can't have feet on the ground, so we don't know where these signs are in the park, which makes things difficult. So we would just have to use our picture here to see what we could find. And I know a lot of people, you say that these are birds right here, which is true. Someone made a point that this part right here could be a dagger or some kind of a tool that the Spanish or the Indians used, quite possible. So we'll keep that in mind. Another observation about this is it kind of looks like a face looking outward. Here would be the nose, here's the side, and this could be a face or a person looking outwards towards the sky. But we know that we'd be going in this general direction right here to make our 9. So let's see what we can uncover. So once again, we're going to be referring to PB Works because I think they did a good job finding something about silver. And here is a picture of a silver casque representing the landing of Ponce de Leon at St. Augustine. Somewhere around 1909, this was taken. And I believe they made it into a postcard, which it says right here was published by the Harris Postcard Company in 1909. But this right here looks like it's a silver casque right here. So when they're talking about a silver casque, this is most likely going to be what they're referring to. And if we look right in the center, we can see what appears to be kind of an egg right here. I believe that's going to be our silver casque. So I would say that there's probably a sign somewhere right here that we can point to with the shell and limestone, but the next thing that we're going to be looking at is going to be this silver casque right here. Next, it says, stars move by day. Anytime you're referring to stars, you're thinking of astronomy. And the one thing that we know is that here at the Fountain of Youth Park, there is a planetarium here. So here's a picture of not the planetarium, but here's what's inside the planetarium. And you can see it has a whole bunch of constellations. And, well, there's not many pictures there. And if we wanted to look through the picture, we could see this is what the planetarium looks like. It's kind of has a small entrance right here, but this is what it would look like if we were looking straight at it. Unfortunately, we can't do much with just this one-dimensional picture, but this is what the planetarium entrance looks like. But if you're talking about stars move by day, sails pass by night, even in darkness, that sounds like, passage over an ocean you'd be sailing over. So we can assume that the planetarium might be something to keep in mind. They've already talking about wind-rose compasses, and when you're sailing, especially over the Atlantic Ocean, maybe you would do some of your navigating by constellations, and stars moving by day sounds something similar, or at night. So let's just bookmark that. Now the last few lines are sails pass by night, even in darkness, like moonlight and teardrops over the tall grass. Years pass, rain falls. Well, aside from what we know about sailing and constellations, this sounds really like a soliloquy or some kind of a poem or a haiku or something. It's just more of an observation more than an actual point, I believe. If there was something specifically written like that, it'd be great to find, but I don't think anybody has found that. One thing that they have found that was pretty interesting is that with the last 5 lines, if you look at the first letter, they spell Seloy, sales even like over years. So that would make Seloy. And Seloy is actually the name of this Timacuan village right here. And here, if we pulled up a information on St. Augustine tours, you could see Timacuan in the village of Seloy, which is right in the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park. So if they're talking about Seloy right there, we could assume that they're talking about the actual village. And right next to the planetarium, we actually have the Timacuan village. Hopefully it's right here. I mean, we could see some things, but again, I question the accuracy of the map just because we know that the ticket booth isn't right here in the middle of the trees. So is this the exact point of the village? Not too sure, but because it's listed, we're going to use it. So those are the main points on the map. Can we identify where exactly the village is? Well, it's a little difficult knowing the information that we have, but we do know that this silver cask right here, and just want to show you one more picture. Also here on PB Works, they have this picture of the silver salt cellar, which talks a little bit more about this item. This is a replica, but knowing where it is located on the grounds would definitely be of help. So knowing that, we would just say that from here we would be going probably towards the Seloy village, and we'd be looking for something in this area. Again, this one is a little difficult because we can't exactly put boots on the ground. We have to pay to get in. There's no Google Maps for us to rely on with the 360 view, and things are kind of mislabeled in certain places. So it's going to be really important if you guys want to dig up this cast in St. Augustine to go there and take a look for these things that we just talked about. I'm going to share a couple more photos with you because I believe that they're important. If you go to the fountainofyouthflorida.com, which is the official website, it talks a little bit about Ponce de Leon and his first visit in 1513. You can see that he sailed on 3 ships, which were the Santiago, the Santa Maria, and the San Cristobal. Now, we know that when Christopher Columbus came, he sailed on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, so quite possibly the Santa Maria was the same ship that came over with Columbus originally. And inside the museum, they actually have a replica of the ships right here. And you can see that they had very similar masts as to the ships that Christopher Columbus sailed on, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. So definitely a lot of similarities. And knowing that he traveled with Columbus originally, it's very understandable why. Also, I want to mention that there is an obelisk inside the Fountain of Youth Park. This is located on the north end right here, but you can see that this isn't your typical Egyptian obelisk. This is one made of multiple stones. If you want to think of something similar, think the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. But you can see that they have what appears to be an obelisk right here. And if you wanted to see where that was on the map, it's the Ponce de Leon voyage marker. Unfortunately, if you click on this, it won't have any pictures, but you can see that this is the obelisk right here. We talked about obelisk before in the Houston puzzle, so it's very interesting. Again, we have an obelisk, and of all places, in St. Augustine, Florida. And one final thing I wanted to mention was in the Boston puzzle, one of the things I told you was I didn't believe that when the cask finder Jason, he said that all the letters are here to see. He pointed towards the U.S. Constitution. And what I was telling you that it was most likely the ABCD because we were able to find ABCD on the picture. Well, here in St. Augustine, Florida, of all places, when I was doing research, I actually found that several of the cannons that are currently in the Fountain of Youth Park were actually taken from the USS Constitution. They needed money for repairs for the ship, so they ended up selling a lot of cannons to different parks around the country. And the USS or the Fountain of Youth Park actually received several. You can see here it says Mayor Walter B. Frazier negotiated with the National Park Service to obtain them for display here on the grounds of the Fountain of Youth Park. So, is the point in Boston actually the USS Constitution? I don't believe that it's the exact point, just because we know that we were trying to make an 8, and going through ABCD down to Old North Church would make that 8. Going north wouldn't have done that for us, but perhaps you were looking at the USS Constitution from that point, which would make it important. Like I've told you guys before, if you guys seen it more than once, it probably means that it's important. So here we have an example of the USS Constitution's cannons. So let's keep that in mind, and we'll just file that back on something that we've seen more than once. So with that being said, that's about all we can do here on the St. Augustine puzzle. I'm not going to be traveling to St. Augustine anytime soon, so if you guys want to find this casque, definitely go out there, use the information that we've provided, and see what you can find. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make a number on the map itself, but you can see some of the points that you might want to use. Remember, you're looking to make a 9. If we look at the picture itself, though, we can see what appears to be a 9. And if we zoomed in on the actual person, we want to see if we can make a 9 somewhere. And using the arms, we have a 9 there, or something of a 9 right here. So whichever one you want to use, this is the 9th puzzle, and hopefully this will be able to help you. This one's a little more difficult, but knowing what we know, I have confidence in you guys, so go out there and find it. We'll be doing Roanoke next, and that'll be the last of the 12. Then we'll be doing some more fun stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care. Talk to you later.